Welcome to Embrace Your Inner Boldness, the podcast dedicated to empowering you to live confidently, embracing all parts of who you truly are. I'm Melissa Henning-Frank, and I'm the founder, success coach, and consultant of Becoming Bold, LLC, and you can count on me to be your guide on this incredible journey of self-discovery and transformation. Let's get right to it. Welcome back to Embrace Your Inner Boldness, the podcast where we confront the things we don't talk about so we can lead, live, and love more boldly. Today we're talking about what it really takes to develop your people and why leadership isn't just about managing performance, it's also about meeting human needs. So if you're a leader, a people manager, or someone who's ever felt like your potential and mental health were being ignored, this one's for you. Employee development isn't optional anymore. For too long, organizations have seen employee development as a perk, something extra. But the data and the lived experience of every disengaged team tells me otherwise. According to Gallup, lack of development is one of the top 3 reasons employees leave their jobs. And here's the thing. No one wants to be a worker bee or a cog in the machine. We want to grow, we want to stretch, we want to matter. But leaders can't develop people if they don't understand what drives people. In my work across HR and talent development, I've seen firsthand how often leadership gets hyper-focused on metrics, policies, and productivity while completely missing the people behind the performance. I've witnessed leaders skip over one-on-ones, avoid difficult conversations, or default to a lot of assumptions instead of digging deeper. I've seen top talent burn out because their silent struggles were invisible to the people in charge. And I've watched employees labeled as difficult or disengaged, when in reality they were just exhausted, unsupported, or operating in survival mode. The gap wasn't in capability, it was in care. Too often, leadership development has centered around strategy and results, but the leaders who make the real impact were the ones who understood this. You can't develop someone you haven't taken the time to understand. If you've taken a psychology class, you probably have heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Let's look at that through the lens of leadership. So Maslow's model includes 5 levels. The first one is physiological needs, so that's food, water, and shelter. The second one is safety needs, physical safety, job security, benefits. The third one is love and belonging, connection, friendships, team culture. The fourth one is esteem, respect, recognition, growth opportunities. And then the fifth one, the very tip of the triangle, if you can picture Maslow's hierarchy, is self-actualization. And that means filling one's potential. So what if we map that hierarchy of needs to the employee experience? Think about it this way. If someone's paycheck isn't enough to cover rent, think level 1, the physiological needs, they're in survival mode. If their job feels unstable or unsafe, level 2, they can't focus on development. If they're excluded from team conversations or if they lack community, level 3, they won't feel safe to take initiative. If they're constantly overlooked or micromanaged, level 4, their confidence will suffer. Only when these are met can someone truly step into level 5, self-actualization, and that's where their actual potential and the need for bold leadership comes in. And you know, or if you don't know, please make sure you're really focused on this next part. It's important for leaders to recognize that they may have some employees who are navigating unmet foundational needs on Maslow's hierarchy in their home life, such as safety, stability, or belonging due to past or even current life circumstances. If you want your employees to perform at a high level, you need to understand where they're coming from. For example, if someone is worrying about housing, food security, or psychological safety at home, it's unrealistic to expect them to consistently operate at the higher levels of creativity, problem solving, and self-actualization at work. Leaders must also recognize that today's political and societal climate, regardless of where anyone falls on the spectrum, is absolutely taking a toll on mental health. Ongoing uncertainty, divisive headlines, real-life implications of policy shifts can stir up fear, stress, emotional exhaustion for so many employees. These aren't just outside issues. They show up at work as anxiety, distraction, burnout, or withdrawal. Whether someone is directly affected or simply overwhelmed by the constant tension, leaders have a responsibility to create environments where people feel safe, heard, and supported. And this is not about politics, it's about people. When leaders choose empathy over avoidance and make space for humanity, they foster trust, engagement, and resilience across the board. Leaders who create psychologically safe environments, who show empathy, and who offer flexibility aren't just being nice. They're meeting people where they are, which is essential for engagement, retention, and performance. You can't control their life and experiences outside of work, but you can control how you contribute to their life and experiences while they're at work. Before we even talk about performance, development, or potential, let's talk about how people feel when they're in the room with a leader, because whether they feel safe or shut down, encouraged or erased, that feeling shapes everything that follows. You can't empower people who feel invisible. You can't build trust in a room that doesn't feel safe. So, what does your leadership feel like to the people around you? When people are in the room with a good leader, they feel seen, safe, respected. They feel like their presence matters. They feel encouraged to speak up without fear. They feel challenged but never shamed. They leave the room with more clarity, not confusion. They feel like their potential is recognized and nurtured. And then flip that over. When people are in the room with a poor leader, they feel small, guarded, or on edge. They second-guess their words, ideas, and maybe even their worth. They stay silent out of self-protection. They feel like they're constantly being evaluated, not developed. They leave drained, discouraged, or dismissed. They feel replaceable and disconnected. If we're really being honest, some leaders focus so hard on results that they forget the human producing those results. Hear me now. Employee development begins with leadership development. And here's how bold leaders help people move up the hierarchy. Let's start with level 2, which is safety. You create psychological safety by not punishing mistakes, by addressing toxic behavior quickly, and by offering transparent communication. That's not saying you don't hold people accountable for their mistakes, but how you handle it when mistakes happen impacts the level of psychological safety for the human beings in your charge. Then there's level 3, which is belonging. You actively build a culture of inclusion. You remember birthdays. You invite quiet voices to the table. You get curious about how people are without judging, and you create an environment where everyone feels like they're a valued part of the team. Level 4, esteem. You recognize growth, not just outcomes. You say, I believe in you, before they believe in themselves. Think about each person as an individual. Don't compare them to others because each person has unique strengths and weaknesses. Focusing on and recognizing their growth can help motivate them to keep growing. And then level 5, self-actualization. You help your people dream. You ask, what do you want to be known for here? You co-create development paths with them, not for them. Some of the best leaders I've had saw potential in me when I doubted my own. Growing up below the poverty line in a home filled with instability, abuse, addiction, and unpredictability meant that for much of my life, I was stuck in the bottom tiers of Maslow's hierarchy, focused on survival, safety, and a constant scan for emotional landmines. I didn't have the luxury of dreaming big or showing up fully. I was too busy trying to be invisible or keep the peace. And of course, I wasn't consciously aware of this. I was just surviving life as I knew it. As I entered adulthood and the workforce, that trauma showed up as people-pleasing, hypervigilance, working hard to stay on everyone's good side, and a deep fear of not being good enough. But bold leaders, those who saw me beyond the mask, made all the difference. The leader who pulled me aside and said, "You don't have to prove your worth here, you belong already." The one who encouraged me to speak up even when I was shaking. And the one who made space for my healing by modeling their own. They didn't need to know every detail of my story, and they didn't. They just needed to lead with empathy, consistency, and courage. That's what helped me rise into higher levels of confidence, creativity, and boldness. That's what helped me heal, and they didn't even realize that that's what they were doing. On the flip side, there were leaders who, without knowing it, deepened the very wounds I was trying to heal. The ones who praised my overworking and perfectionism without realizing it was rooted in survival, not ambition. The ones who mistook my silence for disengagement instead of a lifetime of being told my voice didn't matter. The ones who created high-pressure environments with little psychological safety, triggering the same instability I grew up with. When leaders ignored the human behind the employee, dismissed emotional needs as unprofessional, or shamed vulnerability, it pushed me farther down the hierarchy, away from belonging, away from confidence, and away from self-actualization. Those experiences reinforced the belief that I had to earn my worth, stay small, and never, ever be too much. Think about the humans on your team. Do you have any clue where they came from or what they're dealing with? Employee development is a basic need. It's not a luxury. Let's talk about what gets in the way of truly developing your employees. First, it could be a scarcity mindset. You might say, we don't have enough time to develop people. We need results now. Or it could be old school leadership, managers who think development meant sending someone to a training once a year. Or it could be toxic team norms where people are punished for asking for more. But here's what I want you to hear. When leaders meet needs, people rise. And when people rise, so do performance, retention, engagement, and innovation. Also, to be fair, sometimes there's employees who, no matter how good, how attentive a leader you are, will simply not meet expectations. Those employees require performance management and sometimes disciplinary action. What I'm trying to get across to you in this episode is that it's completely on you to make the effort first, to hold space for employees who actually do have hidden potential, do what you can to enable their success, not enable their poor behavior, and then, if and when that doesn't work, you manage them accordingly. But for the love of Ted Lasso, don't go into it thinking people just suck and don't want to perform if you haven't taken the time to lead like you care. If you're acknowledging to yourself that there's room for you to improve in this area, let's talk about 6 bold practices to develop people better. Number 1, foster trust first. So focus on building authentic, consistent relationships where the employee feels seen and safe. When trust is present, people are much more likely to share when they're ready, not because they feel pressured. The second one is to use one-on-one check-ins with intention. You can ask open-ended, work-focused questions like, how are you feeling about your workload? Or is there anything that would make your experience here more supportive right now? Those questions leave room for personal context without prying. The third one is create an inclusive culture of care. Normalize conversations about well-being, mental health, and life stressors across the team, not just with individuals you suspect may be struggling. This avoids singling anyone out and opens the doors for honest dialogue across the board. The next one is offer resources proactively and universally. Make sure people know about any employee assistance programs that you have, flexible scheduling options, or financial wellness resources as part of regular communication, not just when issues arise. This helps employees access support without feeling spotlighted. Next, listen for what's not being said. Changes in behavior, changes in energy, changes in how they're participating could all be signs of deeper stress. So approach those shifts with curiosity and compassion, not assumptions or conclusions. And number 6, educate yourself. Invest time in learning about the challenges faced by individuals from marginalized communities. The more you understand systemic barriers, the more empathetic and effective you'll be as a leader. Make sure you're partnering with your resources. You've got human resources, you've got talent development teams to help you increase your knowledge in this area. And if you don't have those teams available to you and you've got questions about this, message me. I'd be happy to share some insights with you. I want to ask you, are you as a leader or even a teammate treating people according to their human needs or treating people as if they're just lucky to be there and should be grateful? Here's some reflection questions to ask yourself so that you can take inventory of where you're at with this. Do I truly know what each person on my team needs to feel safe, seen, and supported? And I'm not talking about just their goals, but what motivates them, what's stressing them out. Just thinking about them as a full human. When's the last time I asked someone how they're really doing and gave them space to answer? Am I leading with curiosity or with assumptions? And this goes especially for performance, attitude, or engagement. Would I feel psychologically safe working under my leadership? What might my team be carrying that I can't see? And am I creating space where they don't have to hide it? These questions aren't meant to provoke guilt. None of my episodes are meant to make you feel guilty or shamed. They're meant to grow awareness. And great leadership starts with honest self-check-ins. In closing, we can't lead people boldly if we don't see them as the whole human they are. The magic happens when we do that. People become more than just employees. They become powerful, courageous contributors who transform the work and themselves. That's all I've got for you today. If this resonated, send it to a manager, HR partner, or a team leader who needs to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe to the Becoming Bold Blueprint for tools, prompts, and the next steps to keep leading with boldness. Link to do so is in the show notes. And as always, until next time, please be kind to your mind. That's it for today's episode of Embrace Your Inner Boldness. If this stirred something in you, don't let it fade. Screenshot this episode, tag me at Becoming Bold LLC, and share it with someone else who's ready to rise. And hey, if you haven't already, take a second to subscribe, rate, and review the show. That's how we spread the boldness and keep this movement growing. Whatever came up for you today, feel the fear and do it anyway. You don't need to wait for perfect timing or permission. You are powerful. You are ready. And remember, the only limit to your boldness is the one you set for yourself. Until next time, stay bold, stay curious, and keep becoming you.